Have you ever noticed the golden brown crunch of your fries or the perfect toast on your morning bread and thought, wow, this looks delicious? What if I told you that the very color and crispness you crave might be hiding a chemical that scientists are watching closely? That chemical is called acrylamide, and while it sounds like something you'd find in a lab, not your kitchen, it's actually present in many of your favorite foods, especially when they're cooked at high temperatures. Acrylamide forms when certain foods, particularly those rich in starch like potatoes and bread, are fried, roasted, or baked. This happens through a natural process called the Maillard reaction, which gives food its tempting brown color and flavor. But here's the catch. That same process can create acrylamide, a substance that has raised red flags in health research. The International Agency for Research on Cancer has classified acrylamide as a probable human carcinogen. That means scientists believe it could increase the risk of cancer, based on what they've seen in animal studies. While the exact danger to humans is still being studied, the concerns are strong enough to make people think twice about how their food is prepared. It's not just about cancer, either. Long-term exposure to acrylamide in large amounts has shown effects on the nervous system and reproductive health in animals. This doesn't mean one plate of fries is dangerous, but consistent consumption over time might add up in ways we don't fully understand yet. The good news? You can reduce your exposure. Simple changes like boiling instead of frying, or avoiding overly browned toast, can help. It's not about living in fear, it's about being aware. The next time you take a bite of that golden, crispy snack, you might want to ask yourself, is that crunch worth the risk? 1. What is acrylamide? Acrylamide is a chemical compound that forms in certain foods during high-temperature cooking, such as frying, roasting, or baking. It is not something added to food, nor is it found in raw ingredients. Instead, it's created when starchy foods like potatoes, bread, or coffee beans are cooked above 120 degrees Celsius, 248 degrees Fahrenheit. The compound was first discovered in food in 2002, and since then, scientists and health experts have been studying it due to potential health concerns. This chemical forms naturally as part of a process called the Maillard reaction, which occurs when sugars and amino acids react under heat. This reaction gives food its appealing color, aroma, and taste, like the golden crust on baked bread or crispy French fries. Unfortunately, it also creates acrylamide. Acrylamide is commonly found in processed snacks, potato chips, French fries, coffee, biscuits, crackers, and even in some baby foods. The concentration varies based on cooking temperature, time, and the method used. Boiling or steaming typically does not produce acrylamide, while baking, frying, and roasting do. Although the presence of acrylamide doesn't affect the taste or appearance of food, it does raise health concerns. Because of its widespread presence in everyday diets, particularly in highly processed foods, researchers are concerned about cumulative exposure over time. It's also present in cigarette smoke and some industrial processes, but diet remains the main source for most people who do not smoke. To put it simply, acrylamide isn't an ingredient you can see or avoid easily. It's hidden in foods many people eat daily. And while we don't yet have conclusive evidence on how harmful it is to humans, health authorities recommend minimizing its intake when possible. Understanding what acrylamide is and how it gets into your food is the first step toward making informed choices at the dinner table. 2. How does it form? Acrylamide forms in food through a natural chemical reaction known as the Maillard reaction. This reaction happens when sugars and an amino acid called asparagine are heated together at high temperatures, typically above 120 degrees Celsius, 248 degrees Fahrenheit. The Maillard reaction is the same process that gives cooked food its delicious browned appearance and savory flavor. While this browning is often associated with tastiness, think crispy French fries or golden toast, it's also the point where acrylamide can begin to form. The most susceptible foods are those high in carbohydrates, especially starchy foods like potatoes, bread, cereal grains, and coffee beans. When these foods are cooked by frying, roasting, or baking, they are more likely to develop acrylamide. For example, a raw potato contains little to no acrylamide. But once you slice it, fry it, and it turns golden brown, acrylamide starts forming on the surface, especially in the crispy parts. Temperature and cooking time play a big role. The higher the heat and the longer the cook time, the more acrylamide is likely to form. For instance, darker toast usually contains more acrylamide than lighter toast. Similarly, overcooked fries will have higher levels than those cooked to a light golden color. Steaming, boiling, and microwaving typically do not create acrylamide, because these methods use lower temperatures or moisture, which slows the Maillard reaction. Interestingly, acrylamide isn't something that gets added to food during production, and it's not used as an ingredient. It's a byproduct of cooking. And while the process is completely natural, the result, acrylamide, is what scientists and public health agencies are monitoring closely. Understanding how acrylamide forms helps people make better cooking choices. Small changes like adjusting temperature, cooking time, or preparation methods can significantly reduce the amount of acrylamide in meals. So, that perfect golden brown crust? It may taste great, but it might also come with an invisible chemical that's worth watching. 3. Health concerns, possible carcinogen. One of the biggest concerns about acrylamide is its potential link to cancer. The International Agency for Research on Cancer, IARC, part of the World Health Organization, has classified acrylamide as a Group 2A carcinogen, meaning it is a probable human carcinogen. This classification is based largely on animal studies, where high doses of acrylamide were shown to increase the risk of several types of cancer. In laboratory experiments, animals exposed to acrylamide through their diet or water developed tumors in various organs, including the lungs, liver, and reproductive organs. These studies used much higher doses than what a typical person would get from food, but the results still raise red flags for researchers. In humans, the evidence is not yet conclusive. Some studies suggest a possible link between acrylamide intake and increased cancer risk, especially for cancers like kidney, endometrial, and ovarian cancer. However, other studies have not found a consistent or strong association. The challenge in studying humans is that acrylamide exposure varies widely depending on diet, cooking habits, and other lifestyle factors, making it hard to isolate its effects. Because of this uncertainty, health authorities take a cautious approach. Organizations like the U.S. Food and Drug Administration, FDA, and the European Food Safety Authority, EFSA, acknowledge the potential cancer risk and recommend reducing acrylamide exposure in the diet where possible. It's important to note that acrylamide isn't something people are deliberately consuming. It's a byproduct of cooking, not an additive. But because it's in so many commonly eaten foods, fries, chips, cookies, coffee, most people consume it without even realizing it. While a single serving of French fries won't harm you, the concern lies in long-term, repeated exposure. If you regularly eat heavily browned or fried foods, your cumulative acrylamide intake might increase your risk over time. That's why awareness is key. The more you understand how acrylamide might impact your health, the better choices you can make when preparing and selecting food. 4. Other potential health effects. While cancer risk is the main concern associated with acrylamide, it's not the only one. Animal studies have revealed that acrylamide may also have toxic effects on the nervous system and reproductive health, especially when consumed in high amounts over long periods. Although these effects have not been fully proven in humans, the findings are serious enough for scientists to keep a close eye on them. In terms of the nervous system, studies in rodents have shown that acrylamide can lead to a condition known as neurotoxicity. This refers to damage to the nerves, which may result in symptoms like muscle weakness, numbness, loss of coordination, and tremors. In severe cases, prolonged exposure caused by occupational hazards, like workers handling acrylamide in industrial settings, has been linked to similar neurological issues in humans. Acrylamide also raises concerns for reproductive health. In lab studies, male animals exposed to high doses showed reduced sperm counts and lower fertility. Some developmental studies even suggest that acrylamide exposure during pregnancy could affect the growth and brain development of offspring, although this has not been confirmed in human studies. Another area of concern is genetic damage. Acrylamide is thought to be genotoxic, which means it can cause mutations in DNA. Its metabolite, glycid amide, is especially reactive and can bind to DNA in cells, potentially leading to changes that may contribute to disease, including cancer. It's important to note that most of these effects were seen at much higher levels than what people typically consume through food. Still, these studies help identify what acrylamide is capable of under certain conditions and why minimizing exposure, even from everyday foods, makes sense. We may not have all the answers yet, but the pattern is clear. The less acrylamide you consume, the lower your risk of potential long-term side effects. Reducing intake isn't about fear, it's about precaution. Small steps like adjusting how you cook or choosing less processed snacks can help protect not just your general health, but your nerves, reproductive system, and even your DNA. 5. How to reduce exposure. The good news about acrylamide is that while you can't avoid it entirely, there are several simple ways to reduce your exposure, and they don't require giving up your favorite foods entirely. The key is understanding how acrylamide forms and making a few changes in your cooking habits and food choices. First, be mindful of cooking temperature and time. Acrylamide forms when foods, especially starchy ones like potatoes and bread, are cooked at high temperatures, above 120 degrees Celsius or 248 degrees Fahrenheit. That means boiling, steaming, or microwaving are safer choices than frying, roasting, or baking. These moist heat methods don't produce the Maillard reaction that leads to acrylamide formation. If you're baking or frying, avoid overcooking or browning your food too much. For example, toast your bread to a light golden color instead of a dark brown. When frying potatoes or chips, aim for a golden yellow color, not dark brown or burnt. The darker the food, the more acrylamide it likely contains. Soaking raw potatoes in water for 15 to 30 minutes before cooking can also help reduce acrylamide levels. This draws out some of the sugars that contribute to its formation. Additionally, avoid storing potatoes in the refrigerator, which increases sugar levels and leads to more acrylamide during cooking. Another tip: cut back on processed and packaged snacks like chips, crackers, and cookies, which often contain high levels of acrylamide. Instead, opt for whole foods, fresh vegetables, fruits, and whole grains. These not only reduce your acrylamide intake but also support your overall health. For coffee lovers, it might help to know that acrylamide forms during the roasting of coffee beans. While you don't need to stop drinking coffee, choosing light or medium roasts over very dark roasts may slightly reduce your exposure. Remember, the goal isn't to eliminate acrylamide completely, that's nearly impossible. But by making smart choices about how you cook and what you eat, you can significantly lower your intake without sacrificing flavor or satisfaction. Acrylamide is one of those hidden chemicals that many people have never heard of, yet it shows up in everyday foods we eat and enjoy: crispy fries, golden toast, cookies, and even our morning cup of coffee. It forms naturally during high-heat cooking processes and is especially common in starchy foods that are fried, roasted, or baked. While it adds to the flavor and crunch we love, it may also carry hidden health risks that are worth paying attention to. What makes acrylamide a concern is its potential to harm the body in ways that aren't immediately obvious. Research suggests it may be a probable human carcinogen, and it has also been linked to nerve damage, reproductive health issues, and DNA mutations in animal studies. Though human research is still ongoing, and the levels we consume through diet are much lower than those used in experiments, experts agree, it's better to be cautious. The silver lining? You don't have to give up your favorite foods. With a few small adjustments, you can significantly reduce your exposure. Choosing gentler cooking methods like steaming or boiling, avoiding overly browned or burnt foods, and limiting processed snacks are all simple, effective steps. Even something as small as soaking potatoes before cooking or opting for lighter roasts of coffee can make a difference over time. Ultimately, it's not about fear, it's about awareness. The more we know about what goes into our food and how it's prepared, the more empowered we are to make better decisions for ourselves and our families. Acrylamide may not be visible, and you can't taste it, but it's something worth keeping on your radar if long-term health matters to you. So next time you're in the kitchen or choosing a snack, remember, golden brown is tasty, but not always healthy. A little mindfulness now could lead to big health benefits down the road.